We're going to go ahead and get started. I think it's after 11:45, and I apologize for the delay. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Okay, and now we have a new member, and I know he's with Oppenheimer Fund. No, Obermeyer. Well, it's one of those skiing things. Obermeyer Capital. Come on. Our inspirational moment, and it is, okay, Lonnie Candell. There's not any script up here. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. Lonnie.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. So, with all the tragedies here in Colorado that have gone on with the flooding and everybody being kind of upside down, I think many of us probably have friends and family who have been affected. And I guess when I was thinking about this, being part of an organization like Rotary Club really felt good to me. I know there's a lot of good things that we do, both when things like that happen, but ongoing throughout the year. And so that really felt good to me. And I've had a lot of people come up to me over the last 10 days and kind of talk about some of that stuff. So while I was preparing for this blessing, which I've never done before, I came across this poem, and it just kind of seemed relevant at the time. People come into our life disguised as angels, and sometimes angels come into our life disguised as people. It is possible to see God anywhere. All it takes are open eyes and ears and the willingness to see miracles. They are everywhere. God is as available as we are. Having friends that inspire us to rise higher and to greater levels is an awesome gift. Surround yourself with people that inspire you to do better and inspire your friends as well. It is a profound truth that the people we spend time with shape the path that we travel. Thanks.
And thank you, Lonnie. And now please sit down and network and talk and whatever you need. I just love to whack that bell. I'm now going to call on Mark Donovan, and Mark is doing double duty today. He'll give our secretary's report and also our membership moment.
Thank you, Charlie. Good afternoon, Rotarians. This is in no particular order, by the way. Brian Blankenberg would like us to note the following things. I want to start with birthitarians today, please. Our birthitarians are Frank Lawrence, Nancy Austin, Warren Donder, Johnny Sue, Stuart Gallagher, Jack Green, Melly Kennard, and Pam Adams. Let's congratulate all of our birthitarians. I have a couple of additional announcements, and I know we have a couple of guests today, so I'll apologize if I overlook any of our guests. Sitting here at the head table is Greg Carpenter of Opera, Colorado. Welcome, Greg. And my friend Juan Valdez is back. Juan visited us when we did not have a Bronco speaker, and you were so gracious to come back again today. Welcome, Juan. Do we have any additional guests today? How about any visiting Rotarians? Oh, I'm sorry, we do have an additional guest. Jenny Crate, who is Mac West, our speaker's guest. So welcome, Jenny. We're delighted to have you with us. We have a couple of quick announcements. Rotary Connect Happy Hour is coming up this Tuesday, the 24th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Rack House Pub. Thank you to Kyle Henderson, Vice President with First Bank, for sponsoring. This is an awesome time to get to know your fellow Rotarians in a setting and at a place that isn't bound by time and lunch and other constraints. And so we encourage you and invite you to join us there. Thank you, Tucker Troutman at Dorsey and Whitney LLP, Denver Kids Incorporated, Community Resources Incorporated, and Julie Spear at Rocky Mountain PBS for hosting the September 12th and 13th Offside Fellowship meetings. How many of you attended those meetings? Did you have a great time? Awesome. Thank you so much to our gracious hosts. The Summer Barbecue Series put on by our friend Debbie Kaufman was a great success. Thank you to Sue Fox and Bob Martin, Debbie Kaufman, Lynn and Carl Dawson, Gene Herman, Mark Donovan, and Young Cho for hosting these wonderful gatherings. I understand Young's was enormous, but I can personally speak as a host that ours was incredible fun too. So thank you all who hosted Summer Barbecues. Each week there are event updates on our slideshow during fellowship time, as well as in the bi-weekly Keyway and social activities Friday blasts. Please check them out. We have a few upcoming events that will require reservations, so please keep watching for that information. I don't have a joke. I apologize. Here's our membership moment. Thank you. We know that the most effective recruiting strategy is to be invited by another member here at Club 31, and this is up to you. When I sat down today at lunch, Bill Houston said to me, "Mark, you have an enormous job," and I said, "Yes, we do." The time to recruit is now. Our membership committee, wearing our new blue ribbons, which we have on our badges, to make us easy to spot, is here to make your recruiting as simple as possible. 2 weeks ago, we asked you, keep sending us the names of people that you would like us to invite to Rotary or that you're thinking about recruiting. If you haven't done that yet, there still is plenty of time to do that. Please send us their information so that we can take best advantages of all the things we have coming up next week, because we have 3 really outstanding events. The first one's the Rotary Connect we've talked about. Next week, our speaker is going to be one of the people connected with the new patent office here in Denver, which has huge ramifications for our city and our region. Then the third event is going to be an art walk next Friday night in the Golden Triangle. Great opportunities, great events to invite people to. I'm sorry, Mike? Stand by for further notice on the art walk. Okay, so stay tuned for that one. How many of you came to the peach sale? Okay. Did you notice the T-shirts? The We Are 31 T-shirts were the brainchild of Dixon Griswold, one of our membership committee members. When we're out in the community serving others, doing tremendous things, Dixon and our committee thought it would be particularly appropriate to highlight what some call the 5th part of the 4-way test. That 5th part is it fun? Boldly proclaiming I am 31 not only sparked some really fun conversations, but it got people asking a key question. What does that mean? It means, friends, that we're part of the world's largest service organization. It means that we're proud members of the 31st Club in an organization with over 34,000 chapters worldwide. It means that we're the standard bearers of a legacy that includes 102 years of service and the founding of some of the most enduring institutions in our city. It means service. I am 31 means Denver Rotary. It means you and our guests being open, having a great time, and reaching out to those who are Rotarians at heart but haven't joined yet. Feeling more passionate about what we do? That's what it means to proclaim I am 31. The time to recruit is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I do want to recognize that we have a member here who actually lives in Florida, but it's good to see him. Bill Korstad. Where are you, Bill? Okay, that's okay. Bill had to resign from our club when he moved to Florida, but he decided that it was better to rejoin to keep in contact with Club 31, and so he's now, I think, seeing all of the YouTube videos and keeping up his membership. So good to see you, Bill. Good to see you. Okay, next I'm going to call on Virgil Scott, who will have our networking moment. Virgil Scott is a principal in Virgil Scott Consulting, Inc.
Thank you, Charlie. Well, I shared a story with Will Snyder 3 weeks ago about a networking experience that I had, and he asked that I share it with you here today. It's from a little bit unique, a little bit different perspective. I do a fair amount of traveling with my work, and I've made a list of all of the Rotary clubs in the areas that I cover and where I visit so that I know when and where those club meetings are. And in the last 12 months, I've visited 4 different Rotary clubs. Well, the 4th week of June, I was in Dickinson, North Dakota, with a client, Dickinson State University Foundation, and the CEO of the foundation and I attended their regular weekly meeting. It was the crossover meeting. So I was there for the Dickinson crossover meeting. I missed the Denver crossover meeting. And Kevin introduced me to the people at the table where we were sitting, and one of the people there was an executive director of ABLE Incorporated, and they provide support for the intellectually disabled. And as soon as she found out what I did for a living, she said, "We need to talk." And long story short, 2 months went by and we signed a contract the 4th week of August for 15 months. So, good things do happen. I think we are, it's reflective of the company that we keep. She did say to me a few weeks later, and then she repeated it just this last weekend to a staff member, the reason, one of the major reasons she's working with me is because of the person that I was with, a former club president, a former, it's in North Dakota, it's associate district governor. And she said, you know, I respect him, I believe in him, I trust him. That's all the credentials I need. As Will would say, come early, stay late, wear the pin, get plugged in, and I'll add one more, wherever you are at. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Virgil. The power of Rotary. And all of us have been concerned, I know, about the flooding and the destruction that occurred this past week all around our state. And in response to the need and inquiries about how Rotarians can help the Colorado flood victims, and in accordance with our disaster relief granting guidelines, the executive committees of both the Denver Rotary Club and the Denver Rotary Club Foundation, along with this year's Grants Committee Chair Sid Brooks, approved an immediate donation appeal to our members and a matching contribution by our foundation. In addition, our district has asked us to serve as the repository for donations to this Colorado Rotary Flood Disaster Relief Fund. The money raised will be dispersed to national or local foundations or to Rotary clubs in a position to quickly and effectively assist victims of this disaster along the entire Colorado Front Range. A committee comprised of members of District 5450 and our club and our foundation will determine the beneficiaries of the fund. And we're pleased to report that our Denver Rotary Club Foundation will generously match the first $5,000 donated to the fund. That's on a dollar-for-dollar basis. This appeal notice will be in our district newsletter tomorrow, as well as in forthcoming emails that you'll be receiving from our club and from the district. An online donation link has already been established and is available on the homepage of our club website. That's www.denverrotary.org. Please donate now, and thank you for your support. And now I want to call on Bill Houston to introduce our newest club member, and that is Brent Spahn. So come on up.
It's a distinct pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, for me to introduce William Brent Spahn. He goes by the name of Brent. Brent was born in Lubbock, Texas, moved to New Mexico. 1986, he graduated from the University of New Mexico with a Bachelor of Science degree. That same year, Brent was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps. This was the beginning of a 27-year career as a Marine officer. He retired in June 2013 as a full parenthesis bird colonel. For you that don't understand military ranking, that is one rank below a brigadier general. He had many commands along the way. The one that I mainly refer to is the Assistant Chief of Logistics Operations, and he did 2 tours in our modern wars, a tour in Iraq and a tour in Afghanistan. Brent is a graduate of the Naval War College, and in 2001 he got a master's degree in National Security and Strategic Studies. Upon retirement in June, it was suggested that he visit this club from San Diego, and happily I was introduced, and I've been kind of the one to make sure he gets around. He accepted a job. The Marine Corps came to him immediately upon retirement and asked him if he would become National Deputy of, the Semper Fi Fund. The Semper Fi Fund is a 501c3 corporation nonprofit that raises money to help wounded and seriously and critically ill former U.S. Service Forces personnel. It's a big job. He's going to be in probably 40 of the 50 states in the first year, and so we'll see him when we possibly can. My sense is he'll make a fine Rotarian. He's already working on the Branch Rickey thing, and he's already working on selling tables for Branch Rickey. Please help me give Brent Spahn a welcome to Club 31.
Brent, my fellow Lobo, welcome to Rotary Club 31. Rotary is a worldwide organization of business and professional leaders who provide humanitarian service, encourage high ethical standards in all vocations, and build goodwill and peace in the world. Approximately 1.2 million Rotarians belong to more than 33,000 Rotary clubs in 170 countries. We welcome you as a member of Rotary Club 31 because you are a leader, and because you demonstrate the qualities of head and heart to share the message of Rotary through service and networking. We believe the principles of Rotary and Club 31 are safe in your keeping. You joined Rotary because someone helped you to understand how your life would be richer with Rotary in it. We invite you to join a committee and start networking with our trusted partners, other Rotarians. Once you take those actions, you will discover the true essence of Rotarians. People with a soul for service. We also look for you to inspire each of us to become better Rotarians as we serve our community and world each day. Thank you for making this pivotal discussion to launch your Rotary journey with Club 31, the largest, oldest club in the state of Colorado. We look forward to joining you in your journey of discovering your own passion in Rotary. And thank you, Bill, for inviting and inspiring Brent. The time is now to engage Rotary and change lives. Fellow Rotarians, again, please help me welcome our newest member, Brent Spahn. Yes, and I haven't done this enough yet. Okay. The pen, there's the other pen, for 100 years of Rotary in Colorado. So. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Brent. You can tell I'm not Allison, in case there was any question. I don't have the shoes for it. Okay. And now I think I'm going to call on Don. Okay. It says Lucius Ashby, but I think we're going to call on Don to, he has a presentation from our foundation for the Shining Stars. So come on up, Cookie.
One of the joys of being a Rotarian is to be able to give and to share, and especially to our foundation. And as you watch and work with the foundation, you note how it grows and then how you can then redistribute money to various organizations through the Grants Committee. Today, as a trustee, I am very pleased and very honored to give you, Cookie, a check for $3,000 for the Shining Stars.
Thank you very much. We just really appreciate all of the continuing support that we get from the Denver Rotary, and I just want you to know that in a way it's unfortunate, but the need for our services has increased greatly. So I just brought a few slides to show you the large groups of children and volunteers that we have in our foundation this year and what you supported. These are the kids from our Winter Games. These children all have cancer or a life-threatening disease. 95% of them have cancer. And what we do is we bring them to Aspen every year, and we teach them how to ski, snowboard, or use the bi-ski if they can't come down on their own two legs. And we had the largest group ever. We were expecting 62, and of course, some of them always aren't able to come at the last minute, so we're always hoping they can come the next year. But we had 58. So those are our 58 kids. And point that way. Point where the machine is, not where the picture is. Did I get it? Oh, yeah. And this is the same group of kids with all of the volunteers who help out during the week. We have a medical team that's available at all times, doctors and nurses. They're totally volunteers. We provide their housing and their food, of course, but they very often take their vacations to come and help us out. And the ski instructors, the adaptive ski instructors, are the very same. We have some of them that come from Aspen now, so we don't have to provide lodging, but many of them come from all over the world. We have someone that comes from Japan. We have people that come from Georgia, New York, Virginia, plus, here. And they've all been trained at the National Sports Center for the Disabled to be adaptive ski instructors. So it's quite a large group. We have a very, very small staff. I think there's 3 of us in there, but all the rest are volunteers. No, point it that way. And this is one of the families that we service. Our foundation is very unique because it's a year-round foundation. And the kids become Shining Stars by either attending the Aspen Winter Games or the Aspen Summer Adventure, and they come without their families. Most often it's the first time they've been without their families since they've been diagnosed. But they always tell us that it was the week of their lives, the best week of their lives. And then every month after those events, we have some kind of a reunion event for the kids and their families. And this is all at no cost. 95 cents of every dollar that we spend goes directly to the children's programs, which puts us in the top 1% nationally for nonprofit spending, which is quite a feat. But this is a family, and can you tell which child has cancer? Probably not, because they're at the Grand County Summer Family Camp, which is in Winter Park every year, and they're so excited to get there. But the one that has cancer is Addison, the boy. And I just want to show you Addison. That was Addison. He was diagnosed at the age of 5. He's now 9. And his poster says, "Since I was diagnosed with cancer at age 5 on April 6, 2010, I have had chemo for 1,168 days, lost my hair 2 times, 118 needle pokes, 74 visits to Children's Hospital, Colorado, 4 birthday celebrations on the cancer floor, 6 blood transfusions, 3 bone marrow aspirations, and 20 spinal taps." And this is his celebration day. It says, "Today, June 19th, 2013, is my first day off treatment, and I am a survivor." So this is a very typical story of the children we serve. If you can believe it, some of our families, 3 of them I can think of, actually have had more than one child with cancer. And all of this goes on with all of them. And then, of course, we have those that are in remission and then they relapse. And so it's an ongoing program. These families stay with us as many years as they need us. We have some people still attending the Grand County Summer Family Adventure that have been with us since 2003. So it's a very large program. And this one, the next slide's probably the most important of all. Hopefully you recognize some of these famous people. These are our wonderful Rotary volunteers who help out every year at our holiday party, which means so much to the kids and families. This is all organized by Jim. And I see him over there. Hi, Jim. I don't know what we would do without Jim. He's our #1 guy. But all of these people that you see in this picture come almost every year, and we just could not do without them. So besides supporting us monetarily, I just really appreciate your volunteer support. And I did ask Jim if maybe some of you would be interested in coming up all the way to Winter Park in the summertime to help with the Grand County Summer Adventure. But we decided it might be a little too far. But if you change your mind, let Jim know, because we could always use more help. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us.
Thank you, Cookie, and that's another example of the wonderful organization that your Denver Rotary Club Foundation supports. And I want to remind you that you can still get your cheap tickets to the Branch Rickey dinner. That's $175 per person, and I want to recognize Rich Harris. I think he was the first one to get his check in, so he's the thrifty Rotarian of the week. But it's still possible to get those tickets for the Branch Rickey dinner that's coming up on November 16th. Okay, and now we get to our program for the day. I want to ask Jim Goddard to come forward, and he will be introducing Mac West. Jim Goddard with the 9 Health Fair, and he is our club president-elect.
Thanks, Charlie. You know, one of my earliest memories was when I was about 4 or 5 years old, walking behind my sister on a rainy beach in Oregon, looking down at my feet as I was slogging through these pebbles in a pair of those funny boots and rain slicker that smelled like an old tire, and looking for gems, beach agates. And little did I know that that whole time when my sister and I were looking for the best, the biggest, the most of these agates, that my father, who is a great outdoorsman, and my mother, who is a scientist, were actually engaging us in informal science education. That's kind of a stretch, but we used to go to the museum at the University of Oregon in Eugene and look at these agates, where they came from, and we knew the context of that. And that's really what museums are all about. And so, in fact, working at the Museum of Nature and Science here in Denver was what brought me here in 1986 to develop their health science core competency. And at that time, I heard of a man named Mac West. And so when he became a member of our club late in 2012, I was so impressed and wanted to meet this guy in person and learn more about him, and I think that you're going to enjoy this too. Mac is going to talk about museums and their driving force, the motivations of museums, the economics related to them, the enormous diversity of museums. And I'll tell you just a little bit about his background. And I do want to forgive him for wearing a Packers tie today, but that's just his declaration of his origins in the Midwest. And he was telling me that he's got tickets to Lambeau Field the next time he visits. So that's pretty impressive. Mac has been a member of Rotary before. In fact, he's been a member of 3 other clubs: the Downtown Pittsburgh Club, Birmingham, Michigan, Bethesda Chevy Chase, Maryland Rotary Clubs. He's trained as a paleontologist. I'm sure all of you know what that is, coming from Colorado. He has a doctorate from the University of Chicago, which is where my sister went, as a matter of fact. He has been working in museums for years and years as a researcher, as a staff member, as a director of museums, and now as a broadly based consultant as his professional life. He was on the faculty of Adelphi University on Long Island and conducted research at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. He devoted 9 years as curator of geology at the Milwaukee Public Museum in Wisconsin. He has conducted paleontological research in Wyoming, Nepal, and Pakistan. He has some incredible stories about that, as well as Arctic Canada. He directed the Carnegie Museum of Natural History in Pittsburgh. He was followed by directing the Cranbrook Institute of Science in southeastern Michigan. For 22 years, he's been a consultant. His clients are in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and China. He's a regular presenter at international museums. That's where I first saw him. And he's going to be a part of some upcoming meetings. In fact, this presentation is one that he's going to present at a meeting coming up, but he's presented in Korea, Sweden, Brazil, and has sessions in the Netherlands, Belgium, and Brunei coming up. He's a research associate at our local museum here, the Museum of Nature and Science, and on the board of Rocky Flats Institute and Museum in Arvada. Please welcome your fellow Rotarian, Mac West.
Okay, well, I want to talk today rapidly about what I'm calling the evolution of museums. And what I want to do is look at museums in the context of organisms living in a changing environment. And if you live in a changing environment, you have 2 choices. You adapt to those changes or you go extinct. Let's define a museum. I went to Google, which serves as a dictionary. And this is the definition I got, which is very pedantic and very intellectual and not nearly adequate to describe the array of museums that exists in the world today. So if we just look at the kinds of museums that are out there, it's an incredibly diverse array of organizations, collections, programs, audiences. I mean, we're seeing here everything from fine art to pickled animals to airplanes to activities that represent scientific phenomena, all sorts of stuff. If we just look around Denver, my golly, look at the array of museums that we have access to within a short distance And I just picked those that have attendance of over 30,000. If I listed all the museums in the Denver area, it'd take 6 slides to do the same thing. But if we look at these institutions, they range from the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, the Denver Art Museum, the Denver Zoo, well, and then some other things that maybe aren't quite so prominent as the Black American West Museum, the Forney Transportation Museum, the Denver Children's Museum. Holy cow, look at all of this stuff that is right here in our own backyard. But we'll talk about the evolution of museums. Where do they come from? Well, we can trace museum-like entities back to the 5th century BC in an archaeological excavation at Ur in southeastern Iraq. It was found a remarkable array of pottery and similar kinds of objects, and this little devil right here was the exhibit label. It was written in 3 languages and described those objects that were in this in that archaeological site that I just passed by. A couple centuries later, the Library and Museum of Alexandria in Egypt, another ancient collection of objects that represented the cultures of the day. And at the Library of Alexandria were things in multiple languages, not just Egyptian hieroglyphs, but as you can see, in a variety of Middle Eastern languages. This museum was destroyed in about the 3rd century AD, but the Egyptians didn't let that go, and in 2002 they opened up the new Bibliotheca Alexandria, which is the 21st century version of the original library. Now, these are really based upon collections. And throughout human history, people have collected. These are pictures of what are called cabinets of curiosities in about the 15th or 16th centuries. So people have been collecting for a long time. And in fact, we know this is something that, well, some of us still continue to collect. And many of us hesitate to go into our basements and look around very actively because there's no telling what we're going to find that we have accumulated over time that, well, maybe we could pass it off as a museum. Well, starting at about the Renaissance in the 14th, 15th centuries, collections began to be housed in physical entities and began to be used for interpretation. Here we're looking at the view from the Capitoline Museum in Rome, looking out over the magnificent Roman Forum. The Capitoline opened in 1471. The treasures of the popes were housed in the Vatican Museum, also in Rome. This opened in 1506. Looking a little bit farther away, the Tower of London in London housed many of the memorabilia of the British military and was formally organized in 1660. Also in London, the collections of the Ashmole family became the Ashmolean Museum, which opened in 1677. And the British Museum, one of the most magnificent museums in the world, takes us way back to 1759. And in Moscow, the Hermitage Museum opened in 1764. So we can see that there were some very magnificent architectural structures and collections quite a while ago. But it really wasn't until a little bit later in the 19th century and on into the 20th century that these became public institutions. They evolved from housing collections to being places where people could come and visit the collections and learn from the collections as the general public. And the first of these was the Louvre in Paris. The Indian Museum in Calcutta, 1824. The Indians were really right on top of the movement as part of British India. In the U.S., the first major museum was the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia, which opened in 1828. And the Smithsonian Institution that we're so aware of, the castle, the central building of the first building of the Smithsonian, opened up in 1846. Interestingly enough, the result of a major donation from a Smithson, a British citizen. Art museums were moving along at the same time. 1896, the Art Institute of Chicago. Here we are, a multiple phase museum in Pittsburgh. This happens to be one of my alma maters. That right in there is the Carnegie Museum of Natural History, which I was very, very pleased to direct. And adjacent to it is the Carnegie Museum of Art and the Central Library for the city of Pittsburgh. Quite a compilation, quite a congress of institutions. In New York City, they were moving along too. The Museum of Modern Art, this is not its original building. It opened up in 1929. This is its current building. And now the most popular museum in the world is the National Air and Space Museum of the Smithsonian on the Mall in Washington, which opened in 1976. So we see quite an evolution occurring. Well, let's look at evolution for just a minute, and we go back to my good old friend, as a paleontologist, my good old friend Charlie Darwin, and he, in The Origin of Species, put one diagram in the book, and it was this diagram, and what he shows is a tree of life, a beginning and then a branching in multiple directions over the course of time. And this is the process of evolution, an origin, a diversification, and then often an extinction or a disappearance. So let's kind of follow this idea and look at some of that diversification that occurred within the museum world. And starting in the 20th century, there are organizations that are museums, but they are not collections-based. They are experience-based. And these fall into the general categories of children's museums and science centers. Here is the first children's museum. This is the Boston Children's Museum on the waterfront in Boston, opened in 1913 did have collections, but the collections were all touchable and feelable and climb-onable, and the youngsters got right into working with the natural world through that museum. Very soon afterward, and this is a modern building, but the Indianapolis Children's Museum opened in 1925, again, devoted to science experiences, primarily science experiences for youngsters under the age of 12. In 1962, the Pacific Science Center in Seattle opened, and this was a museum occupying a former World's Fair facility devoted to science phenomena and experiments with scientific activities, not specimens, not objects, but sound, light, motion, various aspects of the physical sciences. And it was followed just a few years later by what has become the most famous science center in the world, the Exploratorium in San Francisco. And this is the original Exploratorium building, opened in 1969 at the Palace of Legion of Honor in San Francisco. And the Exploratorium just a few months ago moved to a new facility on the San Francisco Harbor, which I have the great pleasure of visiting for a day tomorrow. Well, another aspect of the interesting evolution of museums is looking at their diverse architecture. And in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, we see a striking set of places that tried to take opportunities to be really, really distinctive, visually distinctive. And I want to show you just a couple of those before we get into what museums are being confronted with today. This is a Dresden Military Museum. The original in Germany, the original building is 1927. You might notice that there's been a modest addition to it. This opened up in 2011. Well, just a few blocks away is one of those interesting architectural institutions. And some of you probably recall when the Liebeskind edition got put on the Denver Art Museum, and the curators of the Art Museum were confronted with how did they hang their pictures on angled walls. So the building goes back originally to 1948. Liebeskind opened in 2006. Even the traditional Louvre fell into the trap of having to be architecturally distinctive when the pyramid was built in front of the original building. So we had here a original building from 1793 and the pyramid 1989. A little bit of a different architecture there. In Milwaukee, Santiago Calatrava designed the addition to the Milwaukee Art Museum, which is, well, it doesn't take off, but it looks like it could. And outside the United States, down in Brazil, is the Niterói Museum just south of Rio de Janeiro. I happened to have seen this a couple weeks ago when I was at an international conference in Rio, and we were on a luxury, not a luxury, but a dinner cruise through the harbor there, and my gosh, here this thing showed up. Go to the University of Minnesota, and you'll see the Weisman Museum of Art. And this has been going through several different iterations. The most recent is a Frank Gehry edition in 2011. And we'll wrap up in the city of Singapore. This is the entrance to the Singapore Science Center, and this is the brand new Moshe Safdie building that is the Singapore Art Science Museum. So part of the evolution of museums in the 21st century is I'll be very, very kind. Let's be really distinctive, and I'll not use the word bizarre to describe some of these. But as we're looking ahead now, as we're looking at the environment that these organizations are living in, lots of changes going on in the real world. Certainly all of us, whatever business we're in, are looking at the IT revolution, looking at the impact of the internet and the web and social media. What are these doing to the world in which we have to make a living, show a profit, sell products, survive? Public institutions' roles also are changing. The public, and largely, I think because of social media, the public is expecting that these institutions are going to be more open. They're going to be more responsive to social needs and public needs. And they're going to do things that really are relevant, that mean something to me, that I can accommodate, that I can see that, yeah, this pertains to me, my life, my family. Demographics. We look at how just within the United States, how we look at what the Census Bureau has showed us about the changing demographics of the United States over the last decade. Contrast the 2010 census with the 2000 census. And even look at our own city. Look at the changes here in Denver. Look at the whole aspect of the role of institutions like museums in education. You know, Jim mentioned the informal science education, that there are many things that the schools can't do, that they're looking to the museum world to provide the opportunities for the youngsters to experience contemporary art, high art, local and natural history. So the educational role of museums is also something that they have to adapt to. And then finally, how do we do this? How does the museum world do this? How does it maintain its economic base, develop new revenue sources, do things that are appropriate to these more diverse and expanded audiences? How do we develop partnerships with other aspects of the educational world, of the art world, of the science world? And how do we stay flexible? For institutions that many of them are inherently very conservative, becoming flexible and changeable and being able to adapt in a very rapid way is a huge challenge for traditional institutions. So I'm now looking with my clients to what is the future? What do we have to be in 2015 and 2020 in order to continue to be a functioning museum, to maintain our collections, and to maintain our educational programs, and to survive in this new and interesting environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mac. That was an interesting review of the richness of museums, not only in this area but around the world, and thank you for the presentation. And
I know what's coming.
Just in case you didn't know what was coming, our book on the 100 years of history of the Denver Rotary Club and Rotary in Colorado, and a baseball from last year's Branch Rickey dinner, and hope we'll see you again at this year's Branch Rickey dinner. But thanks for your presentation.
My pleasure.
And we will forgive you for the Green Bay Packer tie. Okay, we need those. And I think he will stay a few minutes afterwards if you have questions you'd like to ask of Mac. The program next week is John Postumus. He is with Sheridan Ross PC, a patent lawyer, and he'll be telling us about the new patent office that will be opening in Denver. And I'm sure you will join us for that on next Thursday. And don't forget Rotary Connect next Tuesday night. With that, we're adjourned. Oh, Brent Spahn, get over to the door to be able to say hi to people.